Your performance was stellar. You killed it.
Thanks. Yeah, I knew it was going to be I kind of figured just looking at the scene and, generally how these movies go, I knew it was kind of probably going to be at the beginning of the movie somewhere, in the first 10 minutes. I didn't know it was going to be right at the tippity top, which is cool. But I knew there was a expectation to really help set the terror. So I'm glad that so many people thought that it was well done.
Actually, going on your role, I have another question for you here. So growing up, did you ever expect to become a big time actor and score a role in such a big movie that would make millions globally to be the number one movie of this year?
Yeah, its performance is ridiculous. It's really great. It's like almost, $500 million, you can say now, like 400 million. No, I mean, just general ideas, like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to be, famous or something like that. But then as you age, the idea of like hitting the lottery and being super famous all of a sudden, you see too much of the world to where you're like, well, that's not really where satisfaction is. It's more important to be satisfied in the work that you do, the people that you work with, and the family that you have at home and your close friends, because everybody's only got a group of like about 12 friends that are real friends most of their life. And when it happened, I don't have stock in Blumhouse or Universal, so I'm a hired gun. I come in, I do my bit, they pay me my bit, and then I go away. And honestly, the best thing for me, just professionally, of being in something that is so successful, is that more people will see me and potentially give me the opportunity to try out for different things in the future, which, it's what an actor wants to do. They want to try different characters. They want to be in different films. They, want to have more opportunities. No matter what kind of job you have, but especially in something that's so gig-like as acting.
Interesting. Floof, you almost done there with the. Oh, okay. So Floof says, I saw your audition video where you showed yourself in your room playing the security guard. And normally I'd cringe at stuff like that, like a grown up man screaming in his room. But your performances was just so good. It passed my brain, not a question. Just gotta say, your acting is magnificent.
Oh, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Yeah, if you're not willing to look like a complete loser idiot, then I don't think you can really be an actor, because you have to be comfortable being ugly, looking stupid, doing the wrong thing. And I mean, you could say that about acting specifically, but you can almost say that about anything in life. I don't know how many people I've met in my life who are afraid to fail, who are afraid to look bad. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that thing because I'm not good at it, so I'm just going to stay in my house the rest of my life and not challenge myself against the world. But you have to be ready to push through the suck. You have to push through failing in order to achieve things. And as an actor, that means like, oh, I got to be prepared to really commit, but end up not doing it, not hitting the mark, messing up. And of course, you don't want to mess up, but you shouldn't stop yourself from trying because of the threat of a mess up or the threat of looking foolish or stupid. There's a great actress from like the 40s, the 1940s and stuff like that, who later on in the 60s and 70s, she was kind of one of the first big actresses to be comfortable being old, because she used to be beautiful and, no, nobody wants to see an ugly old lady. And she was like, well, screw that. I'm going to go and I'm going to act the shit out of this. And, ends up winning an Academy Award because, people are all kinds of things. People are ugly. They're pretty, they're strong, they're weak, they're happy, they're sad, they're confused, they're focused, they're thin, they're fat, they're crazy, they're too stable, So I think all that variety is good going in the human experience. If you don't stop messing with your suspenders, I'm going to go get mine. And every time you mess with yours,
I
I'm
would
going to mess
love
with
to
mine.
see it. I would love to see yours, honestly.
Oh
But
no.
Marionette here has another question for you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's just wait for him to put on his suspenders.
This is gonna be awesome. I
Yeah.
would I would have pinned these down, but like every time I would go back or forth, like the pin that would normally be in the center right here that I had to remove earlier before the interview started, it would rip my shirt. So that's why I didn't use pins. And since these aren't real suspenders, there's no like thing to hold them down right here that I could clamp on. Like I could use a
You could
potato
totally
chip
do.
clip, but
You could do a safety pin. What are you talking about?
the ones that I have are really small.
See, I got some. They have some hearts on them. They're my Valentine edition.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
yes.
security guy actually has Valentine's Day suspenders.
Oh yeah, it's
It's
all
now
underneath. Yeah.
that's now canon. I gotta say,
Yeah, it's
that's
now
that's
canon.
completely canon.
Yeah.
But Mary, what was your question, Marionette? By the way.
Oh, it's just it's kind of a personal question actually, but it's kind of related to the entire acting thing that you were talking about just a minute ago. Um because I usually make a fool out of myself at school, and I'm kinda the class clown, and I've actually wanted to get myself into acting recently. I've been to several plays and I've seen them, and I usually think in my head, I can do this, okay? If I wanted to be in a play, I could definitely act. But whenever I'm actually on stage, I get really, really bad stage fright. So, like, any tips on that?
Yes. Do it more. There's no shortcut really. You can do things to help you. And that's being prepared. Making sure you're well rested. Making sure you've eaten. I recommend not eating at least 2 hours before you have to perform, because you don't want to have like a chimichanga 10 minutes before you go on stage, and then that's messing around in your stomach. You want to be pretty clean. Generally, I will just have water and coffee to kind of get me through a production. And reading your lines, and not only reading your lines, but as I said before, a dramatic work or a comedic work, it's a machine. It's like a watch, and every character that's in it is a different gear and a different part of that machine. And the sooner you can understand what your function is in telling that story, the better. It's great to be noticed and to get applause and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you're there to do a job, and that's to satisfy your participation in making that story come to life. Now, when I was younger, and you want to play around, especially if you're maybe a little more talented than some other people, you'll be tempted to kind of show off and stuff like that, which is kind of cool. I encourage doing that to a degree, but once you make your part more about you, the real person, and less the character, it's kind of selfish to serving the story, if that makes sense. So as far as like curbing stage fright and things like that go, yes, more exposure doing it, making sure you not only know your lines, but you know other characters' lines around your lines. And if you understand your function in that machine, you can often save people on stage. Like if somebody forgets their lines, which is, terrifying, but it happens to everybody. But if the person you're acting with forgets their lines, you can be like, "Oh, what happened at the general store, Mary Sue?" Like, because you know what she's supposed to talk about next, so you can save her, you can feed her those lines, and your fellow actors will be incredibly grateful for it. You'll be better, easier to direct because you understand the story and not just like, "Oh, I'm going to do my part, be awesome, and leave, and everybody else, good luck." Um, and as far as stuff you can do when you're not in a production, you could get a group of friends together and find some scripts online and just get together and have some Mountain Dew Code Red and some of those Arby fries and just read different characters in the script to each other to practice.
That's great. I'll definitely be using that advice. Thank you.
Yeah, and you should troll my Twitter thread. I think I've written up like a pretty long diatribe about how to get into community theater in your area and different resources and things to think about.
I actually have 2 questions for you, Mr. Ronick, going based off of lines and more or less characters. So you talked a little bit about getting into character and about really reading your lines. What specifically did you specifically have to do to get into your character? And if at any point in time, did you have to improvise for any scenes that you had that were not perfected?
Yeah, there are kind of general directives. I mean, every project's different, but in general, when you're doing something like I did in FNaF, where it's all physical based, it's physicality. Where's he looking? What's the thing that he's reacting to? They show you the setup. Like when I got there, the first thing I filmed was the vent stuff. So they were setting up the cameras and the lighting for that. And all over the set, they had these fishing strings, basically, these little lines that they would pull and stuff would fall. And they digitally remove that when they're making the movie. So they had stuff that would there was actually somebody behind the door pounding it, but then they had other things that were like pulling stuff in the room. And they show you your basic position. You get down there, and there's usually a back and forth. They're like, "Oh, here, crouch like this." And you get down in that position, and then you say, "Well, this feels kind of unnatural. What if I, sit like this?" And you have a back and forth with the director and the first AD because you have to do what's comfortable for you as a performer, but you also have to do it to where the camera can, pick up what you're doing. When I was making my way down the vents, that offered a lot of freedom for me of like where to shine the flashlight in a given moment, how fast to go generally in the vents and stuff like that. So that was cool that they gave me the time to make that stuff up. And once I was in the chair, now this has been spoken about before, but there's a deleted scene between me screaming at the door and the camera rushing me. And there's a scene between that and me being put in the chair. And the scene that got cut out was me being drugged down a hallway, kind of like half conscious, in and out of consciousness. And so when it came time for the chair, I figured my guy is totally passed out, thrown into the chair, and then wakes up. So I kind of just came up with the idea of like, oh, he's kind of, you're waking from sleep, basically. You're being unconscious and then a little confused of where you are. But then that thing that's right there, you finally notice that thing, and oh my God, what the hell is that? It's a Fazbear mask full of blades. So that kind of helped build that action as far as like what I'm going through when I am in the different scenes.
Ooh, okay. So me and Floof were talking in the chat just now, and he said acting while being anxious is really about having other actors there to save you when you mess up. And I was talking back and forth with him, and he says, same, mostly voice acting for me though. I'm just not in a physical situation where I could act living with my folks and all. But going based off of what you were saying there, I guess you could really imagine the your character must have being in that chair because it's like, oh my god, this might kill me or this is happening to me and like I'm confused and dazed and I could really picture that.
Yeah, of course, when you're there, like I have a tremendous respect for voice actors because yes, they have to work off of usually nothing. I mean, they might have a couple of pictures, that some art department made up, but they have to just kind of bring a lot of their emotion to the table versus when you are in an actual environment and you can use the things around you to help get into that space. That's why it's important as an actor to not rely too much on the emotionality of things, uh, and being able to look at it more of um, what's the function I'm satisfying here, and you think of it like a scientist. And I mean, you're acting, so you are not necessarily faking the moments, but you're conjuring them. There's no outside force that is making you react this way. You're conjuring your concept of terror. And that goes with whatever you experience in the world, whether it's books you've read, other actors you've watched, seeing other humans in the world and how they react to terrible and horrifying things. And I mean, emotion is universal, whether you're in Pakistan or the Australian outback or the North Pole. Doesn't matter where you're from, happy people smile, sad people frown. And there's a million different gears in between of terror and love. But the people that are experiencing those emotions react the same way, generally, no matter what language they speak. Now, there might be some oppressive culture where they're, not as enthusiastic as others, but the general precepts are there. And when you're acting scared and there's nothing around to be scared, you just need to present the outside look of one who is afraid without actually being afraid, if that makes sense. It might be obvious. I don't know.
That makes perfect sense. Like really. Ooh. So Flu says right here, actually do have a sort of interesting question. How terrifying did it feel being in the Five Nights at Freddy's set, having to crawl through those small claustrophobic vents, having real spinning blades getting close to your face? Must have been at least somewhat terrifying.
No, it was exciting. It was as terrifying as a roller coaster, right? Like, people get on roller coasters all the time. What happens when you get on a roller coaster? You scream your head off because you're scared, right? But it's also fun and exciting. Now, if you went to a theme park and you saw the roller coaster ended in a pile of mangled bodies and smoke and fire, you probably wouldn't ride the roller coaster. So when an actor goes to a film set, you have like all these other professionals that the first thing they do is go through all the safety procedures and make sure that you're comfortable as a performer doing the things they're about to do. And it's all set up for you. It's set up to play in. It's set up to play act. You're scared. So as depressing as it may sound, I wasn't scared at all. The only fear I had was like the fear of like, I want to do a good job. I want to serve the story. I want to make Scott happy. I want to make Emma happy. That's the things I'm trying to do. I'm trying to serve that character's function. As far as the vents go, they were actually more roomy than I thought they would be. I thought it'd be more of like a Die Hard affair, but I was able to kind of like crawl around in there. I had knee pads on for safety. They offered me elbow pads, but I didn't think I needed it. The vents were probably only about maybe 15, 20 feet long, and like a big hamster contraption. And between each setup, they would cut the camera. I would go to my chair and read my Kindle, and they would rearrange this whole hamster maze to a new configuration. So they made, a piece of vent that was like this long look like it was this long because they kept rearranging it and shooting it from different angles, which was really clever and got some really good looks. The chair mechanism, it did have, actual air compressors that was making the clamps open and close. And then there was a magnetic field that was holding them closed, but it wasn't so strong that I couldn't get out of anytime I wanted to. I did hurt myself on that, but it was from my performance and it wasn't from the setup itself. It's because I was pulling my hands against these clasps to make it look real. And the next day I looked like I was handcuffed. It had I had cuts on my wrists and stuff like that a little bit, which didn't bother me. I was like, hey, I did a good job acting. But again, that was all me pulling against the prop itself to make it look real. Nobody told me to do that. And as far as the mask goes, I mean, you guys go to cons, you know what EVA foam is. All the blades in the mask were EVA foam that were just very well carved and airbrushed and looked like metal. So I didn't have like actual metal spinning at my face. And the whole crane contraption that's on was controlled by two guys that were on the ground, slowly moving it towards my face. So if anything went wrong, they could stop at half a second's notice. So everything felt safe doing. Nothing felt scary. For reals.
Interesting. ZRick has a question for you. So he says, I'd actually be interested, even though you've spoken about this before, what your experience in meeting Scott and Emma Tammi was like.
Good question. I actually spent more time with Emmy, I think, because she's the director, obviously. But she's leading a small army of people. She has like maybe 8 or 10 like core lieutenants underneath her. That, I mean, if you think of it like a battle operation, right? She's the general, and then you have like your lieutenants and majors under her. And on a film set, there's like 60 people on the crew for this one, and can be even larger in some movies. So you have her, and then you have the first assistant director, and he pretty much stays next to the camera and relays all her messages to the camera guy and stuff like that. So I didn't have like exactly one-on-one time with her, like sit down, let's have a cup of coffee and chat. There were several times where she came up to me and she was like, okay, this scene is going to be about XYZ, and we need you to do ABC. And I could collaborate with her like on that. And she had a very like almost like a surgeon's kind of countenance about her, the way she was approaching it. She's seeing the machine and she's seeing what that gear of the moment is supposed to be. So it was cool working with her and seeing somebody that was like really focused and no nonsense. Not to say that she wasn't approachable, but she was there to knock it out of the park and deliver. And I actually had to challenge her at one point as a director. Not her, but like what the direction she gave me. And, generally as an actor, you want to make people happy. You don't want to be like, I can't do that. But it was to serve the watch. It was to serve the machine, because we were doing the vent stuff, and you film me one time going this way, and then you film me another time going this way and another time going that way. And you got to start thinking about, the mirror reverse image of things. And this was a setup. We had done the vent stuff maybe 2 or 3 different times. And she was like, okay, we're filming the thing that you filmed an hour ago, but now we're looking at you from this different angle. So you got to do the same thing you did an hour ago, and just remember what that was.
Again.
And she said, so at that thing that you filmed an hour ago, you went down, you looked to the left, and then you went to the right. And I thought for a second, I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, oh, wait, no, that's not how it went. I looked to the right and went to the left. I didn't look to the left and go to the right. And she was like, are you sure? And I was like, I'm pretty sure. And she's like, okay. And then she went back and they they watched the scene from an hour ago because, it's all digital, of course, so they can just run it back. And she came up and she's like, yeah, you're right. Thanks, man. I was like, cool. Yeah. I mean, she didn't have like, how dare you question me about it? She was just, as me, wanted to do right by the film and like the mechanics of the thing. So I was glad that she was so approachable on that. And at one point, she actually had to remind me that I had a line that didn't make it in the movie. And here's the line that I said that didn't make it in the movie. Although maybe it'll be in a deleted scene. I don't know. The line is no. That's the line, is no. And that was on the second day after filming for 6 hours. And she was like, hey, this is where you have your line. And I was like, I have a line? Like, I had forgotten at that point. I've just been doing physical stuff. And she was like, yeah, your line is no. I was like, oh, cool. Thanks. And then I ad-libbed a couple of stuff. So we'll see if that gets in there. That would be fun if it did. But it's all at the gated door, trying to open it, discovering that it's locked and won't open. And then like later on in the chair scene, she was like, wow, you scream really well. And I was like, well, thanks. And cause that was after probably an hour and a half of screaming and like moving the camera around and getting different angles. And she was like, oh, you're good at screaming. I was like, well, thanks. You should hear what I can do with dialogue. And everybody's like, ha ha ha, and put me up on their shoulders and carried me through the park like Rudy. And as far as Scott goes, yeah, when I first encountered him on the set, I didn't recognize him. I didn't know who he was. I was coming out of that big plywood corral that I told you about, and I was going to like the snack area to get some coffee or water or something. And he and a couple other people were going back into the studio, and he was like, hey man, you're doing great. And I was like, thanks dude, whatever. And he went in and I went to go get my coffee, and one of the other like crew people was like, oh, that's the creator of the show. That's the Five Nights guy. That's Scott. And I was like, oh shit. Like I didn't know. I didn't recognize him because you're on a set with like 50 other people. I thought it was like, a key grip or something. It could have been anybody, honestly. I mean, I had seen his picture before, but I wasn't intimately familiar with it. So I thought it was really awesome that he was there like every day watching the progress of it, as an executive producer. He also had a lot of input on how they filmed stuff. And when you're on a film set like that, you generally don't want to, fangasm over people because you're there to do a job. It's not a convention. You don't want to make somebody feel awkward about creaming over them because of, who you think they are. So I wanted to have another encounter with him, but I didn't want to be like creepy or like just walk up to him and just start staring at him and be like, you're awesome, man. So since my kid was such a fan, I thought, oh, I can get my kid an autograph from him, and that will give me a good excuse to go in and get it. Because if it was just an autograph for me, I probably wouldn't do it because I'd be too embarrassed and wouldn't want to bug somebody. But him and his wife had this little area set up with these like cool couches and a giant like 63-inch TV that was plugged into seeing whatever the camera was seeing. So they could kind of sit back, removed from the chaos of the filmmaking, and be able to make sure everything was going according to plan. And if he wanted to chime in and give some advice and talk about a camera shot, he easily could, but he didn't have to be in the thick of stuff. I mean, he was still in the same building, but it was pretty far removed. So I went over to his little area where him and his wife was, and I was kind of like, hey, is it cool if I talk to you for a second? And he was like, oh yeah, man, sure. And his wife just kind of smiled, and she's like, yeah, man, come over. And they were very welcoming to me. I mean, this was towards the end of the second day, so I felt I had proved that I was doing an okay job and not some maniac. So it was nice that they like had me over. And he told me a little bit about the history of coming up with the game and the games he had made before, and how, someone would do good, someone would do bad. People liked some, people didn't like the others. But where he was in his life, an older gentleman like myself, he never thought that any of these were going to like catch fire and make him a millionaire or anything like that. He was just happy enough if his games did a good amount of business to pay for the gas in his car or help get a new washing machine or something just very realistic, very modest. As I was saying before, like, what's success? And he seemed like genuinely humble when talking about the movie too, because I was like, "This is great that you have the Jim Henson Company doing the practical effects, and you're not doing CG." And he agreed, and he was like, "Yeah, that was like one of my requests from the beginning. He didn't want to use CG for the creatures. He wanted because there's always something kind of off." And we both saw the same page on that, and it was really cool to see that he had stood by that and pushed it, and got arguably one of the best manufacturers in the world and all of history in Jim Henson Company to come through and do it. And he had this moment where he was like, "Oh, I just this one's for the fans. I just hope it does good. I hope it does good." And almost like a nervous parent might be, sending their kid off to school or something like that. Like, I just want him to be happy. And he says something to the extent of like, "Gee, I just hope it makes some money." And I think he was talking about like he didn't want Blumhouse or Universal to lose billions of dollars on the production. I don't think it was about him making a bunch of money, but it was about having it break even, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's a business, film business, show business. And I just had to look at him and be like, "Oh, dude, you're gonna make some money." And it was cute how unsure he was, and I kind of looked at his wife, and I was like, "You know that, right?" And she kind of had this look of like, "Yeah, I know that." So like she seemed a little bit more pragmatic in it. She didn't have the artist's concern for their creation. She kind of was a little more objective, and she is well aware of like the millions of fans that are out there, and she knew that everything was lined up for it to be a success. So I had him, autograph a little thing for my kid, and he didn't even know what to write. Like, his wife had to suggest something to write because he was just that humble of like, "Gee, I don't know what I write." So it was really great meeting him. Like, he just seemed, like a creative type person that had made something that made a lot of people happy and really inspired a lot of people, and almost sleepwalking through the success of it, like almost not believing in himself. And Emmy seemed surgical, focused, and very clear on like the type of film that she was crafting, and also like the responsibility on like doing it justice.
Absolutely, for sure. Okay, so Floop has a very long question for you. So Floop, okay, there we go. He says, "How long were you on the set for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie? Were you there in the back watching all the other actors film their parts, or was it a one and done job where you left when you finished recording? And did you get to meet all the other actors? Josh Hutcherson, Matthew Lillard, Elizabeth Lill, Piper Rubio, etc."
Yeah, as I said, I was very much a hired gun. I was hired to come in and knock out a part. Obviously, you can see I'm in the movie for like 0.8% of the movie. So I had a very focused, very specific window. So I had 2 film days, and the first film day was probably about 7 hours working, and the second day was probably closer to like 14 hours. And yeah, when I was finished with my stuff, I just went to my trailer, hung up my costume, got a bottled water, and went back to my hotel to just do my routine of just calming down and getting everything neutral to go to
Interesting.
sleep, to go back and do a good job the next day. The first day, the shorter day, I did meet Josh because that was the vent day. And since the crew was messing with the vents with me the whole day, they thought to do they you're killing me, bro, with those fries. Oh man.
Sorry.
Throw them in the hallway, dude. You've had enough. Come on. Now you're just nervous eating.
No, I'm actually done now. I'm actually done. The plate's clean.
Or you just have muscle memory. I just busted your balls. You're fine. So I did meet Josh, and he was going in to do his vent stuff, and prior to that, I met this like long-haired older hippie guy that was coming through, and he like stopped and he was like, "Hey, are you the rat guy?" And I was like, "The what?" And he said, "Are you the rat guy?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about, sir." And he said, "You're in the vents with the rats." And I was like, "No, that's not me." And then he walked off, and I later understood that he is the animal handler. So he was the animal handler that came with the mice or the rats that were in the vents, but for Josh to play with and not me. And so when Josh came on set, he had his, costume on, and they were doing like makeup and hair stuff to him. I was like, "Hey man," he was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, "Today's pretty good." And I said, "I think you're the rat guy." And he was like, "Wait, what?" And I said, "I think you get to crawl around in vents with rats." And he was like, "Oh, great." Like he didn't know that they were going to have rats in his vent scenes or something. He struck me as very grounded and good sense of humor. I mean, we only got to talk for maybe 30 seconds, and there were like, 4 or 5 other people around doing different stuff with costuming and hair and makeup. But yeah, he just, seemed like a pro there to go in, do his bit and, deliver. And yeah, I didn't stay to watch him, and I didn't meet any other performers on the film since I was just those 2 days. And my first day was pretty much half me, half Josh, and then the second day was just like all my stuff with the hallway and the chair and coming out of the vent.
Interesting. I would have expected you to meet Josh because of that one vent scene that he had towards the end of the movie where he was crawling through that crawl space. If I remember, he went either left or right and came out underneath that prize claw machine in the movie. And so that was like during your film day, like you just said.
Probably not. The stuff that he filmed on the day that I was there was probably just him inside of the vent. Like whatever shots they filmed of him inside the vent, and maybe getting into the vent, that was probably shot in one day. The stuff that was filmed like in the main playroom coming out of the vent was probably its own separate day altogether, because the majority of that scene was the giant playroom and not the vents, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That makes perfect sense to me.
Well, I have a question as filler for now. Oh wait, hold on.
Okay, so Marionette, before you continue, let me say Floof's thing real quick.
Yeah, of
Floof
course.
says, not a question, kind of just a nitpick. I really wish you got more screen time. The Five Nights at Freddy's movie barely featured anything in the first gameplay wise.
Well, thanks very much. The best you can do as an actor is do your bit, and like whatever they leave in or cut out generally is in the greater service to the whole of the story or the film.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make it, time is a concern. This isn't a superhero movie. Even superhero movies, in my opinion, don't need to be 3 hours
Mm-hmm.
long. They're not The Godfather. They just need to get off their high horse and do 90 minutes in and out. There you go. Bob's your uncle. So like the stuff that I was in that might have, could have been longer, might have worked, but it also would have changed everything else afterwards as far as a flow of time goes. Because you really got to think about the overall production and the runtime of it. And things can certainly overstay their welcome. Scenes can go on too long, just as they can be too short. I think my bit, considering it was a pre-credit scene also, was a good amount of time to kind of set the terror of the movie to follow. So I don't feel like I got cheated or anything. It would have been cool to see the dragging down the hallway, but I think personally, just if I had to guess, that might have been edited out, not only for time, but also because as I'm being dragged down the hallway, there's like a line of blood that's behind my head on the concrete floor, which might have challenged the PG-13 rating that they were trying to adhere to.
As far as I'm aware, I believe that you can get away with a lot with PG-13. But definitely, yeah. Marinette, you said he had a question, by the way? Marinette, you there?
Yeah, sorry. I was trying to unmute anyway. Well, yeah, I want to give my opinion on the intro first. So personally, I think it was set pretty well. Like for a normal audience that isn't just like an entire for like someone who's like, for example, if it's, let's say, a fan's mom that's going to the movies to see this film that their kid has been ranting about for so long, like I think it's I think it sets the tone for like the entire movie, and it's basically just like explaining that this place is dangerous and there's something bad happening here, and you know it's just basically setting the tone and the mood. And apart from that, like the 8-bit intro part thing was also amazing in the credits.
Yeah,
It
that
also
was.
just it basically explains everything. But yeah, it was one of my favorite scenes, as a matter of fact, like the screaming part and the part where you're like strapped in the torture machine or whatever it's called. It was amazing, okay, because I almost like screamed whenever I saw that scene, because it's also the first time we see like Freddy Fazbear,
Yeah. Yeah.
like the actual Freddy Fazbear. Well, not actual, but his face, the actual suit. It's a preview basically. But anyway, my other question was, did you ever actually watch the entire movie like in a preview, and what were your first impressions of it?
Right. Well, first off, great observations. Yeah, I mean, again, show business is show business. They want this film to not only satisfy the fans, but to also appeal to people who may just kind of be aware of it. So you're really right there. Like a mom who's bringing her kid to the movies just to shut the kid up. What does she need to see to be able to get invested in the story and to not be bored either, or feel lost because she doesn't know all the inside, events. So yeah, in that, I think it was well timed and well applied. And yes, I did receive an invite to go see a screening in New Orleans. That was a private screening for all the New Orleans-based cast and crew, because the film, I live in the Southeast. It was filmed right outside of New Orleans, and generally on movies like this, they bring their core cast, like your heavy hitters, your Lillards, your Hutchinsons and whatnot, from Los Angeles, and your filmmakers and stuff like that, your core crew. You bring them to the location you're filming at, and then you round out everybody else, your supporting cast, and all your technical people, costuming and whatnot. You'll source from that local pool, which happened to be the Southeast. So I'm sure they had a screening in Los Angeles that they went to, but then they also had one down here. I wanted to go to it, but I chose not to, because I had planned with my tight-knit group of friends here that are pretty much like family to see it on a very specific date. So I had already made plans with about 12 like close friends and my wife and my kid to have a day where in the beginning of the day we're going to do pumpkin carving, and then we were going to go to a Chuck E. Cheese and have beer and pizza, and then we were going to go to the movie theater and see it there. And that seemed like a real nice ramp to get into the spirit of things. It was great. My friends, of course, are my friends, and they were very supportive, and we're all like, when like you saw my face on the screen, and they enjoyed the movie. They asked me to take a bow after the film, which was funny, and I'm sure everybody else in the theater didn't know who the hell I was. But that was a great experience. And I thought when I saw the movie that I really liked the way it looked. The sound design was amazing. The animatronics came across really nicely. I liked where they took the story, and that they took this fantastical world, but they also tried to build like a grounded story within that fantastical world. I mean, as much as you can with like animatronics possessed by dead kid spirits, if you can make that realistic. I think they did one of the best jobs that I can imagine. I don't know the kind of story I'd come up with if faced with not only the expectation, but like the constraints of the material as well. So yeah, and I had a feeling like they're going to be making sequels to these just based upon the impression I got of his performance before the numbers even started coming out. And now, we're definitely going to see, some sequels.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, it's just amazing in general. Like I'm still astonished that this movie actually, it actually came out, because we had been waiting for like around 8 years, and there was so many stuff happening during the pre-production. Yeah, it was still pre-production. It was really early. Like
Mm-hmm.
first, I think like the game rights and like the entire like franchise was given to Warner Brothers or something like that, and then they were passed down to Universal and Blumhouse, and this and that happened, and this it actually came out this time. Like,
Yeah.
luckily, yeah.
Yeah, it has
So
taken
yeah,
a long time. It's
it's
taken a
great.
long time, and development hell is what they call it when something is just perpetually in development. And it's great because the fans for this, there's always a new generation that catches on to it. So you have fans of this game ranging anywhere from kids that just found out about it and they might be 9 years old to people in their mid 20s who were at a certain age when the first game came out. So just think of like the millions and millions of people that this game had, anticipating it coming out. And then also, you go in, you go into the different rock tumbler of development, like, oh, you get a script, it's not what you want. And, I know that they went through several scripts, even the version that they filmed, I'm sure there was at least like 6 versions of it, but I know there were entire different storylines probably in different scripts when Universal had it. And they, just trying different things. And like you mentioned, all the rights that they have to work out. Well, who gets the licensing, who gets the the money from the t-shirts, and what kind of split goes where, and this, that, and the other. So yeah, it's good that it didn't die in development hell, which a lot of things can, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's again, um, it was a long time in development hell, and I honestly didn't think it was gonna actually like be a real thing. It was kind of one of those like long lost internet myths slash memes.
Hmm.
Oh crap, the FNaF movie is actually coming out.
Yeah, like, don't
Like,
lie
I
to me,
remember
man.
when I first saw the posters, like the one with like the 4 animatronics, like and like the purple lighting. I didn't think it was real. I thought it was like CGI, like some sort of fan poster,
Hmm.
because I had seen plenty of those before. And plus, I wasn't really expecting it to be a good movie, at least not for like, the general audience. Like, of course, us fans were gonna adore it and like, praise it and call it peak cinema. But like there had been other like movies that tried to, like steal the money and the fame of,
Oh,
Five Nights
sure.
at Freddy's and Killer
Willy's
Animatronics.
Wonderland.
Yeah, Willy's Wonderland. Well, sorry, Willy's Wonderland. The Banana Splits movie, stuff like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard the Banana
And
Splits one was actually pretty good.
uh,
I haven't seen it, but
yeah, it's more of a slasher actually. There is actual blood, unlike the FNaF movie there.
hmm, hmm.
And I'm pretty sure actually the script that was used for the Banana Splits movie was one of the older scripts for the FNaF movie because it was being produced by Warner Brothers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's still a theory, but it's kind of odd. It's kind of suspicious. It's kind of weird that
Yeah.
right after
Convenient.
Scott Cawthon, leaves Warner Brothers to go work with Blumhouse, they released this movie about killer robots at a film location, because it's at a film location, not a pizzeria, by the way.
Hmm.
So
Well,
it's kind of weird,
they had the
just a little
dignity to
bit.
change that, at least, I guess.
Oh yeah. By the way, Floof has a question she wants to ask. Let me just read it.
Sure.
It actually says, actually, Ryan, did you watch Willy's Wonderland or any other FNaF media in general before being cast in the movie? Apart from the games.
Right. No, I had not. I had not. I had seen a couple of reviews on like some YouTube channels that I watch that review movies, and I was like, okay, I feel like I watched it. Sometimes you can watch a review and you don't need to watch the movie. Um, although the Banana Splits, they did say that it at least try to be its own movie and not as blatant of a, oh, let's write a script in 2 days and film it, which Willy's Wonderland seemed to be just more of a, let's have Nick Cage do crazy stuff for a while.
Ooh.
And like seeing some of the footage from that, you can kind of tell that it wasn't a very well financed production. Now, I love me some Nick Cage. I could watch that man clip his toenails and be fascinated, but I don't have to see everything he does.
Yours, of
Yeah.
course, always set the questions, but from you, what is the fun fact or info about the movie you generally want to put out there that you haven't gotten a chance to yet?
Hmm.
That comes from ZRick. I tried not to interrupt you guys there. Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's good. I mean, I'm hard pressed to think of anything specific that I haven't said that I want to say. I got nothing. There's nothing that I want to say that I haven't said. Although there are probably things that I haven't said that I will say if I'm asked the specific question or something gets me thinking about it. Because in each of these interviews I do, something will generally occur to me that I haven't mentioned before. But there's nothing that's like, oh boy, I got to say this thing that I haven't said yet, unfortunately. Sorry.
Actually, I think I might have something to ask. It's about Freddy or Shreddy Fazchair. Again, I don't think you ever touched on what it was like seeing that for the very, very first time. Like you described what it was like shooting with it, but like what was your first encounter slash interaction with it when you got to see it?
Yeah, actually, I got to see it on the first day when I was filming the vent stuff because there are several times where you're just waiting around for the camera and the light crew and the director to be ready for you. So you need to be close by, but you don't need to be, hovering over the area that they're at because honestly, you'll be in the way. So I just walked around and like looked at the other parts of the sets that they had built. And I walked around and I saw that whole like garage area where they had the Faz chair. And there were there was like a stunt person there that was I think the stunt double for Abby. She was like a grown up, but she was like short, which is a great career for diminutive people. Can be stunt doubles for minors because you don't want to be throwing a kid all over the place, but you can do that to a trained adult. And a couple of the puppeteers and operators were just kind of talking shop, just hanging out, and they were by the Shreddy chair, and I was just like, "Oh, hey guys, what's up?" And I met them and like talked to them about the build of the creatures and stuff, and I was able to just kind of have a moment and like really stick my face up in it and appreciate the craftsmanship that went into it, and I was very well pleased. I was like, man, I mean. I'm a crafty person sometimes too, so I was trying to guess the different materials that they use to make different parts of it, and be like, oh, how would I do that? Oh, maybe they did that. Oh no, I see what they did. So that was fascinating, not only from a wow, look at this cool thing, but like a structural thing of like how did the artists that work on this put this together and build it, and it was nice. It was magical to see that and to see it there, like in the fur, so to speak.
Interesting. Uh, did being in the FNaF movie affect your life in any way besides the 1,000 different people trying to interview you? That comes from
Um,
Fluke.
yeah, it's given me a reason to use social media. Honestly, I generally, don't find much purpose in my normal day to day life to care to use social media. There are people who do, that's fine, but like people who are like, oh, this is what I did this weekend, this is what I ate for lunch, blah blah blah. It's like, doesn't personally interest me. But when it comes to being able to, interact with the community of fans out there, seems like a very like low impact for me. Like it doesn't really cost me anything, time and attention, but I think it's very valuable for the fans to feel that much closer to the thing that they love. And it also selfishly helps me get more exposure as a performer and actor. So it's almost, I mean, it's a professional interaction. I genuinely enjoy having the interviews and like going back and forth with the community, but it has made social media uh, more digestible to me because I feel like I'm getting something out of it, and I'm also giving something that people value from it too. I'm not showing you what I had for lunch. I'm telling you cool things about the thing you love. Um, And it has opened up a couple of opportunities for those in the community who are making their own FNaF inspired games and stuff like that to be like, hey man, would you mind doing some voiceover stuff? And that's been cool to get into because as a performer, I'd like to do more voiceover stuff. And it's given me an opportunity to give them something kind of cool for their own projects and a little like acting exercise also.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have a question also related to that. It's kind of like just the beginning. Um, how did you get the role? Was there a casting call of some sorts that you got yourself into? Did you act like did you actually had to like compete with like other people to get the role?
Yes. Generally, when you're an actor and you kind of got your stuff together in one basket as far as like, you know, trying to get professional, you have your resume, you have your headshot, you get an agent, and something that a lot of people like just in the movie enjoying world don't think about is how that really happens. I'm not obviously Tom Cruise. Somebody's not coming to me and being like, hey Ryan, here's millions of dollars, please be in our movie. So there are some like more independent, like less well financed, like people make it for $500 in a ham sandwich that will ask me to do things because they don't have a lot to work with. So they're trying to, get favors or do a tit for tat or give somebody interest in like, oh, if we ever make money, you'll get some money kind of thing. But for like studio productions that are covered by like SAG, AFTRA, like the unions, like Real Deal Movies, Universal, Blumhouse, the way it works is the production, as I said, when they're coming to the area that they're filming in this case, the Southeast in the New Orleans market, the production from Hollywood will find a casting director that's in that market. And they'll go to that casting director and they'll say like, hey, we need 10 supporting actors for this movie. We already have these named A-list actors that you know about, but we need this guy doing this thing. We need a security guard. We need this other thing. So they give a breakdown of the roles needed to the casting director. Casting director has this list of the roles they need. Okay, it's a man this old, it's a woman that old, it's this race or this body shape, this kind of atmosphere of character. Oh, this is a rich guy. This is a homeless guy with a heart of gold. So they read the breakdowns, and then the casting directors will go to their local resources, which have all the actors in the area that are represented by agents. And they look through all these faces and they probably remember some actors from previous, like, oh, I'll get Bill on this. He was good. And then the casting director will contact the agent and say, hey, let me see for the security guard, Ryan, Bill, and Jerry. Let me see them read or audition for the security guard. Now, the casting director does that for my agent, but he also does it for all the other agents in the area. So you might have the casting director get 3 different actors audition from 5 different agents. So now you have 15 people that are possibly considering for the role. So they do their stuff, they send it in to their agent. The agent sends it back to the casting director. Casting director watches them all. He watches, 15 auditions, and he says, okay, out of these 15 auditions, I think these 3 are the best. Then the casting director takes what they think are the 3 best, and they send that to the production in Hollywood to review. Then the people in Hollywood look at it and they might say, hey, let's see Bill do another take. Or, oh, we want Bill to be the busboy, like have him read a different role altogether. Or they might just say, we like this one guy, let's get him right away. And so through that daisy chain of events, the production will eventually choose their person, tell the casting director the dates that they might film. And then the casting director talks to that agent, says, hey, check Ryan for these filming dates. casting director will call me. I mean, the agent will call me and say, hey, are you free in these dates? Are you available to film? I'll say yes. Agent will tell casting director yes. Casting director will tell the production yes. Then they sign contracts. And then somebody from the production calls you and they say, hey, welcome aboard. Let's get you to come in for a costume fitting. And they give you a date and a time, and you just kind of take it from there. Now, there are some things, as I mentioned, that are just basically open call kind of stuff. But that's going to be more for independent films or lower budget productions. There are a couple of websites that I go to almost every day to look for acting opportunities.
I have other things, not other things, but I have something to show other actors if I can get them for calls like this for an interview. Since
see.
I know before you're telling me that you didn't really agree to stuff like this because of the fact that there was no content to listen to or look up. So this is my very first.
Yes.
Please send the link whenever you do. Ooh. Okay, so yeah.
Are you recording on Discord also?
No, sadly not. I'm screen
Okay.
recording.
Because I knew some of the others did. Well, hey, however you can get it, it's awesome. I'm loving this drawing, Marionette. That's pretty wicked, dude.
Thanks, that really means a lot.
Yeah. Hands are hard to draw, man.
Oh yeah, I had to do like what, three like different attempts of the same thing because I'm not that used to drawing hands. Usually when I draw hands they end up looking like, mittens. Or like, like in games where like there's a model and it's like really low poly. They call it low poly. So yeah, I tried really hard. So I'm kind of proud of it actually. I posted it like almost everywhere, or like almost, on like every single social media account that I have. But yeah,
Good stuff, man. Keep it going. Do more.
dang.
Those next few posters that you can see in chat are my own personal creations. Went through and digitally altered and edited lighting, textures, stuff like that via my phone editing software to create these fan-made posters for what I would have thought the movie would have looked like for
Oh, neat.
posters. So I was wondering if I could get your opinions on those.
Yeah, well, graphic design is my meat and potatoes of what I do day to day. I do graphic design and build websites. So, sure. Let's see here. All right, first one is in October's in theaters, October 27th, and there's a way I can blow this up even larger.
It's a little bit iffy here and there, but that's because I didn't have the proper equipment to do it since I don't have a full-on setup. I just did this with my phone.
Okay. First hot take is the okay, you got the cast list at the top there. I see. Sorry, I got this on my tiny. Let's see if I can move this to my other monitor. See it a little larger. All right, cool. And dip, do, and do. Okay, let me blow this.
The third image, I don't know if you can tell, is sort of my own rendition of the actual poster. I played around with the lighting, the contrast, and the graphics. That's all that I adjusted there. That way the purple wasn't so much, if that makes sense to you. Because I saw online that the fans are complaining about like the purple being it's like really irritating is the way I'm gonna put it. Because it's like
hold on, let me take it one at a time. Okay, I'm on the first poster here with the Five Nights at Freddy's at the top. I like the glitchy font you have, but it all being run together like that. See if I can. Hold on. I'm trying to share my other screen. I don't think it's going to work out for me. Finder, share Finder. Yes. Streaming channel, blah, blah, blah. Go live. Nope. Okay, never mind. Anyway, maybe you can superimpose this so people can see what I'm talking about. Like the glitchy font, but what I would recommend is like changing the font size maybe of each different word so it's easier to read. Like 5 Nights at Freddy, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It up a little bit. As named, I appreciate you have my name on there, but I'm too small of an actor to be on there. You'd have like your main, 3 or 4 actors on there. I like the spread between the 2 characters on the top with the Fazbears in between. I think that's a good composition. I like the you'll never forget this job. That's a good tagline. It kind of gets lost in there because it's a little darker, so maybe a white font on that. And not sure about the 27 being a different font from the other fonts around it. I don't think that's necessary. And I would almost say the bottom section with the animatronics could be above the section that's above it, if that makes sense. Like Five Nights at Freddy's, You'll Never Forget This Job, in theaters October 27th. Then you have the animatronics, and then below that you have the Fun of Freddy's and the 2 characters. I like the elements that are in that. This next one I'm looking at is the Foxy one. I like the negative space there where you kind of have that open blue field. And what is that? Are those 2 theater chairs at the bottom?
No, those are the stereo systems. So like the way that there was the stereo systems on the actual show stage via the behind the scenes of Doggo, Razbowski, all them. There were speakers on the left and side or the left and right sides of the stage. So kind of wanted to incorporate that as well as the original Blumhouse logo instead of the fan logo from a YouTube channel that I found via the first poster. And
Okay.
wanted to incorporate that. I felt that I wanted to give it more Pirates Cove feeling, so not really putting much there. I did think about putting October 27th, but I was like, I'm just gonna leave it as Pirates Cove and just put Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah. I think your Blumhouse logo could be maybe half that size, as well as your rating. Those can be scaled down. I know it's difficult when you're designing on a screen versus when something's printed up, because I do that all the time myself, as far as like the relative scale of things. I think the whole stage could be like lowered in the frame, and you have the bulbs just like lower, and figure out a way to put the speakers on the stage, maybe like hanging speakers that are in front of the curtains or something. I would put a spotlight effect on the curtains to where some of it's darkened out, and then there's kind of like a halo effect of where the light is. And then a shadow behind Foxy, and maybe darken up that brick wall so Foxy is pushed out from it a little bit. I like the concept of it, though, because you get the feeling that the show's about to start, kind of thing.
Yeah.
The third one I'm looking at is the purple poster.
Original poster.
Yeah, it's difficult to really make out what's going on different there versus the original. You say you just desaturated it a little bit, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I played around with the lighting, the colors, the pixelated graphics of it. So I increased the quality, and I played around with the what is it called?
Levels?
Yeah, that. And I also wanted to make the eyes less glowy because in the actual poster, they're more or less shown as like headlights almost. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, that doesn't seem right as like an actual animatronic. Like, yes, they're bright, but they're not going to be as bright as headlights. Like in the original trailers, we saw that they have really, really bright white eyes and red
Mm-hmm.
eyes. And I wanted to really tone that down as well as the purple effect and give that a little bit more of a darkness as well as less intense lighting for the eyes.
I see. I see. Something I've learned that when they're making film posters is that a lot of film posters end up being predominantly white or blue. So to distinguish your movie from other thumbnails that you're going to end up seeing on a streaming service, you also got to think about that's why they might have gone with that vibrant purple to kind of jump out from other titles. If you imagine it's in a line with 5 movies that have blue posters and 5 movies that have white posters, if you have this one purple movie, it's going to kind of jump out at you a little bit more. So maybe that's something they were going with the choice of that purple light. As far as the glowing eyes go, it reminds me of how they rendered the eyes in a couple of parts of the movie where you can actually see like inside the animatronic head, it's kind of lit up a little bit. And I don't know how, if that goes along with the games or not, but I thought that was a super cool effect. And again, they might have been extra glowy on the poster to jump out at people watching it on a streaming service, looking at what to watch on a night in the future. But that's cool. You did the upscaling and were able to tweak it like that, but keep it the same. Okay, this last one I'm looking at where
It's
you have.
kind of the same thing, but except after I watched Dako's, Razbowski's, and Ryan's videos, 8-Bit Ryan's,
Mhm,
I was inspired to make a second version of the poster, but except try to lean more into the actual show stage
mhm.
from the movie.
Yeah, I'm gonna
That's
say
what I wanted to lean into.
this is the best one as far as like a realized concept and composition. Again, the PG-13 can be like 1/8 the size it is. The Blumhouse could be half the size it is. Um, You could probably move The Nightmare Never Ends, Five Nights at Freddy's in theaters October 27th. You could probably move that down and give a little negative space between the stage and where that block of letters begins. I like the stage look. I like how the stage has a depth to it from the shading you have. It's dark in the back, light up front. I like how the brick wall also has that kind of darkened on the peripheral. The colored lights are cool. That's a fun effect. You could also play around with the colored lights hitting the stage in like little circles that just have like a little bit of that color on it that looks like the ones at the top are actually landing on the surface of the stage. But I like that composition, and this I think is the best of those that I have just seen.
I actually wanted to make it
Keep it up.
so it feels like you're looking upwards as if you're a kid almost, or like a teenager looking upwards at the stage since I know it's a bit tall. And even the, boys had to climb like a little step stool to get up onto the stage. And I wanted it to be so the lights would be shining down on the floor rather than the stage, if that
I
makes
gotcha.
sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Totally.
And I used
Yeah,
the
I like it.
same
It's good
animatronics
work.
from the first one, just increased the color and decreased the quality a little bit to give it a more 80s feel, if that makes sense. How everything was more or less grainy almost in the 80s,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
except it has color.
Yes. Yes. The word is noise. What you're looking for.
Noise. Yeah.
Yes, and it's a very often looked over but very important component to get a certain feel of an image, and it's cool that you're seeking that out. In fact, a lot of problems that modern cameras and filmmaking in general do is the image is too clean, it's too perfect. So what they'll do in the editing process is they'll actually put fake noise in there, which simulates film grain. So grain and noise are kind of the same thing. And it's amazing the psychological effect that can have. Because I do some video editing myself, and like when I was finishing a project, I looked at like 12 different types of grain to put back into the movie because the movie was too shiny. It didn't have that cinema quality to it, and that's also very impactful in graphic design too, especially for establishing a mood. So that's awesome that you're feeling that out.
That is awesome to hear your feedback. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. I think because I wanted to share something from my screen, I think I screwed myself by not by disabling something in my system settings to where I can no longer share my screen because it keeps on. Oh wait, screen share permission.
Oh, I saw this screen sharing thing for a moment.
Yeah, so did I.
I just like if you guys want to talk amongst yourselves for a second, I can just figure this out real quick.
Oh, yeah. Hot take. The first FNaF movie poster, or well, just the red eyes in general, just the animatronics were like smoking weed or something of some sort. You know, they look high. I remember seeing a few memes of like, you know, the poster being like 5 joints at Freddy's or 5 blunts at Freddy's,
Oh,
like
that's
stuff
funny.
like that.
That's great. That's good. I hadn't seen those. Well, you guys, you can. I can just upload this to the chat, I guess, but nobody on the video is going to see it unless you can share my screen or share these images. But these are some things that I designed recently that I'm selling on my Etsy store for a cheap plug. You guys see these?
Yeah, I actually saw that on your Instagram, believe it or not.
Okay. Cool, good. Yeah, these are some of those moments that I took from the film, the being caught up against the locked door there, the experience with the Shreddy Fazchair, and then just a card of a couple of stills of the thing that I've been signing and like getting to people. A couple of people contacted me about Christmas presents for friends and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome to get that. But I just wanted to put that out there for people to check out. And most of that, the graphics were designed in Illustrator, and then I brought it back into Photoshop and I added noise to it to kind of give it a little feel. And I'm not sure. Let me open one on my computer and see if you can really appreciate that grain in these images. Yeah, you can. If you zoom into it, you can kind of see it's got a grain.
Yeah, they do kind of remind me of like, you know, an old postcard from like, let's say the 80s. They have like that old like printing effect and all those vibrant colors. They're really like, you know, bringing like they're reminding me of that era. Well,
Cool.
actually speaking about that, how much are they? I might be able to buy one.
I would appreciate that. I have to check, honestly.
I was actually about to get to that right now. I was gonna say if you could link the store in which you're selling them, not like physical stores, but online store where users could purchase them, I could make a big announcement about it.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I will put in the shortcut.
And if you want, feel free to stick around. I have spent so very long on this server, months.
There we go. Thank you. I appreciate that. Honestly, I don't use Discord with the exception of like doing these interviews. I mean, I see like how cool and versatile of an app it is, but it just honestly doesn't fit in the workflow of my days. It reminds me a lot of uh, not to of like what Instant Messenger was back in the day. I know Instant Messenger is like super lame these days as far as like Yahoo goes, but like when it first came out, it was fantastic, and Discord is like that, but the next generation, allowing the screen sharing and the file sharing and being able to build all your little custom forums and stuff. I think it's really awesome. But I mean, I'll stay a member of it and stuff, but I just honestly won't get on it day to day because I got enough busyness with my other social stuff. But that's the link. I dropped it, Ryan Reinike merchart.etsy.com. And yeah, the each of those 80s vibrant colored things are $15 and comes with an autograph and whatever you want me to sign. And I don't know why I did that because I'm left-handed. And the comp card is $10. It's a little smaller. And then there's like a couple of options to buy them like grouped together for some savings. But yeah, I found a good company that produces it on some like high quality Fujifilm photo paper stuff, and this is one that I've made mistakes on, so I use it to test out my marker now. But yeah, you get whatever you want written on a nice little silver thing and printed up and mailed USPS to your doorstep. But I just started watching Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix with the kid, and I'm due to watch another episode. So while I'd love to hang out, I kind of got a date to do that.
Gotcha. We will let you go. We won't take up any more of your time. But real quick, I just noticed in chat, Flip said also, Ryan, if you have enough time, do you mind watching and critiquing my animation about a minute long?
Yeah, sure. Let me click on through.
She says, I'm not sure if you've done any 3D animation before, but there is some tiny graphic design stuff involved. Tried making the laptop feel like it was a running real operating system. It's more motion design than graphic design, though.
Cool. Yeah, let me check it out. I got it right here on my other screen. Nice. I like the flickering in time to the music. That's awesome. That's pretty sweet. I guess I'm going to another one. I have not messed with 3D animation to any real degree. I have, but man, it's like so deep, the learning curve. I mean, the principles are, the same between any like visual medium, but like the time that goes into it, like congratulations. That's I know no small feat to do that. I really like the make sure I'm watching the same thing again. Trying to scrub through it. Okay. I like the environment that you built there. Now, what were you saying about the laptop?
They said right here that they tried to make the laptop feel like it was running a real operating system.
Right.
She said, from the view of a security guard in the first game. Then yeah, I get that. It took me about 6 hours. The rendering, turn it into my MP4 video took even longer.
Wow. Yeah, that seems like it'd be the way to go, is to make that whole desktop and the video playing on the desktop as a video file and drop it into that 3D plane to then shift around, which is probably what you did. Yeah, I think it's effective. I like the way it looks. I like your your Windows circa 95 there rocking. Let's see here. I'm just gonna mute it and play back that part. Because I want to look at that again. Yeah, I would say as far as an animation goes, like give that a little bit more time. Not only because you spend a lot of work on it, because it's a nice effect too. Like the time that the laptop is open is probably only, let's see, like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi. So about 5.5 seconds of a minute long video. And something everybody's got to do when you first turn on a system too is you got to like find where the cursor is. So you could even have like a little delay of like, oh, where's the cursor? Oh, here it is. Just move it around. I like the look of it. And how it's like not giving you the camera feed anymore. I really like the in sync lights on Freddy trimmering along with the beat of the music. That's pretty creepy. It's a good effect. I would recommend maybe playing around with the idea, because this goes on for the majority of your video from 21 seconds to 1 minute and 1 second. So you have 40 seconds of Freddy here before he comes at you. And I would say to play around with putting him at the end of a hallway, and as the lights are flickering, have him come, steadily closer maybe. And maybe the camera can even like look around and like, oh no, the door's closed now and can't get out, or something like that, to kind of build that tension. And I really like how they just go to like a very dim look at the end there before he snaps. That's a good like pace down of the tension before like releasing it. But overall, like really good animation. I could not do that. It would take me so long to just learn how to. But good stuff, yo. You're welcome.
He said thank you.
What did you use to build it in? Blender or something? Right on. Yeah, transcoding video can be a pain in the behind. And when you're doing an asset like that, like I don't know the pixel aspect ratio that you're rendering your video at, but you might have been able to drop your resolution down on your project file, since it's like a small element in your overall field of view, and maybe that would have taken less time. A app that I found use in is Handbrake. It's an open source video transcoder, and I use Final Cut Pro. I got a Mac and compressor. But what I'll do is I'll export at full quality my MOV file, and it's huge. It's god awful. It's like gigabytes of space. But then you can open Handbrake, and it has a ton of different settings that usually look pretty good just on like a fast pass, and you set your frame rate. And I found that it's better a lot of times at transcoding media than even like the Adobe or Apple products, because it's like one of those open source projects that a lot of people are like working on to make better, and it's cross-platform. It's free to download. It's at handbrake.fr if you're interested. Oh, the Blender animation took 4 hours. Yeah, I got no tips on that. Get a faster computer, I guess, but if you have a couple of $1,000s laying around. But thanks, y'all. This has been cool. I love seeing the FFmpeg. I think actually Handbrake uses that, but it gives you kind of a GUI to it. Yeah, FFmpeg's been around forever. It's a good solid go-to. Cool, y'all. Well, enjoy your upcoming weekends, and let me know when this comes out, and I'll help spread the word.
You as well. Thank you so very much for showing up and being here. We all
Yes,
appreciate it,
thank you so
especially
much, Mr.
me.
Reinike. It's like it's actually kind of like, a dream come true actually being able to talk with, an actual actor from, this movie. Five Nights at Freddy's has been it's been here for like most of my life. I was just a little kid whenever it came out, and I've been a fan since then. So it's
Same
just
here.
it's amazing. It's great.
That's awesome. I'm honored to be a part of something that has like such a universally cool fan base. Like all the stuff I've seen, community is very supportive of each other and the canon, and very creative too. And it's great to see people be inspired by a creative work and be themselves inspired to be creative off of that. So it's like this like snowball effect, which I'm sure Scott himself is very pleased by. If I made something that inspired other people to make their own things, that's got to be a great feeling. So cool to you guys being awesome, and thanks for tuning in at 5 a.m. and 4 a.m. Good God, were you guys at UK?
It's currently 8 p.m. here for me.
Then
Yeah,
you're
same here.
Europe, that's basically England. Gonna get some hate mail from that.
I'll come out my house and I'll break your fucking leg.
All right, y'all. Have a good night, good times, and see you later. Twitter's the best place to find me, and Linktree/Ryan Reinike is where to find my other stuff.
Yeah, I'll definitely
All
take a
right,
look
thank
at
you.
your link tree.
All right, y'all. Well, cheers, and see y'all later.
Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
y'all.
That was breathtaking, dude.
Absolutely. I don't even know
Yeah,
what to
dude.
say about that interview. That was a dream come true for me personally. Like, I know that I'm the one that set that shit up, but like, for me, that was amazing getting to actually speak with Ryan Reinike.